So I'd like to talk to you about the progress we're making as a movement. Because we are, 15 years after the first National Animal Rights Day, greatly underestimating our progress. A few weeks ago, I had the privilege of attending the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit in LA, where I was surrounded by some of the brightest minds and organizations in the country and internationally. And while I met amazing people and learned a great deal, there were emerging themes. Troubling themes echoed in conversations, on stage, and even in hallway whispers. Themes that I believe represent a successful propaganda campaign designed to convince us that what we are doing isn't working. The CEO of Beyond Meat publicly said, "It's not our time." British influencer Robbie Locke declared, "We've hit a wall." Others echoed, "We've lost momentum." And then came the same published articles, the same 3 recycled graphs. Sales of plant-based meats are down, vegan restaurants are closing, meat consumption and factory farming are on the rise. But rarely was there any level of sophisticated analysis. So, allow me to dispel the bullshit. It was said that alternative meat sales are down, but no one endeavored to tell us why. Is it really the people that are losing their taste for meat, as the New York Times so smugly suggested? Could it be that Wall Street, in its infinite wisdom, overestimated demand, and what we're in fact seeing is a correction, not a collapse? Could it be that the market is still on track to recover and grow with abundant new opportunity, as markets do? The pessimist said vegan restaurants are closing, but what kind of restaurants are we talking about? Are they franchises, independently owned, or do they have institutional support? Are they ventures created by first-time entrepreneurs and chefs without experience in the harrowing, risky world of new restaurants? The reality is that most vegan restaurants are passion-driven ventures founded on principle, not by profit. So let's be real. Some might fail because they're early, others might be underfunded or be in the wrong market. Or maybe, in some cases, the food just wasn't that good. But when the right variables and experiences are in place, such as with the City Roots Hospitality Group, which owns the Nixie and Beyond Sushi, where in the city, these vegan restaurants thrive. Their locations are constantly packed, and they keep opening more restaurants welcomed by vegans and non-vegan diners wherever they appear. I heard the naysayers posit that meat consumption and factory farming are on the rise. But that number is distorted by the mathematics of population growth, as well as by the concentrations of certain demographics that tip the scale. According to Tulane University, just 12% of the population in the United States is responsible for 50% of meat consumption. And within this cohort, notably composed of Gen Z men, within the last year, meat intake is up recently by 40%, a surge influenced by red pill ideology, authoritarianism, and performative masculinity. This is indeed a trend, a hyper-concentrated crisis of ego, but not an indicator of the health of our movement. And it goes deeper. The vast majority of increased global meat consumption is occurring in places such as Brazil and Southeast Asia. The metrics there are driven by rising incomes, investments from international banks, urbanization, and a perception of meat as a luxury or symbol of prosperity. These nations are at a distinctive point in their economic development and technological curve, and their shift towards higher meat consumption mirrors what happened decades ago in the West. But this too is sure to evolve. And one day, the moment take hold amongst these populations, and the groundwork laid by local activists in these countries will allow a groundswell of enlightened thinking and living to grow exponentially. This is how change spreads. Slowly at first, then all at once. The internet, too, took decades to become broadly adopted by many populations within specific demographics, even after the technology was fully developed. Social movements throughout history take time to travel the globe. In the 1830s, people in the northern United States were largely apathetic about slavery. Many benefited from it, and others actively supported it. The idea of the idyllic plantation family, or even the outrageous assertion that black people did not feel pain, was widespread. As British abolitionists had gained traction against dire public opinion odds, William Lloyd Garrison launched The Liberator in Boston, which publicly detailed descriptions and illustrations that exposed the inhumanity enslaved people we're subject to. Frederick Douglass did the same thing in New York with his North Star publication. Activists would stand on street corners, handing out pamphlets and having conversations with strangers, just like we do when we stand in plazas like this, showing people slaughterhouse footage. Over the next 30 years, millions of conversations were had about the morality of slavery. From new ideas and reported truths, part of a nation embraced change, and many people would go on to risk their lives to express their patriotism and moral courage. As we know, the Civil War did not eradicate institutional racism, but the movement catalyzed a change of conscientiousness and changes to society, much of it born of the fearlessness of activists who refused to shut up. Much of it because of people like you. Meanwhile, in areas where education, media, and cultural capital are most concentrated per capita, meat consumption is declining, including in the UK, Norway, and in urban areas of the United States. In Germany, nearly 10% of the population now identifies as vegan, and more than half report actively reducing their intake of animal products. In 2024, an estimated 1 million people went vegan in the UK, and in 2025, veganuary participation has surged globally to 25.8 million, up from just 50,000 in 2017. But a much more interesting stat to me is how many American households have chosen to have a Thanksgiving without a turkey. In 2024, nearly 13% of US households opted for a turkey-free meal. It's called Thanksgiving. This survey, by the way, was not conducted by an animal rights org. This is coming from the Butterball Togetherness Report, which guides turkey industry on market trends so they can adapt. This says far more about our cultural shift towards rejecting animals as commodities than broad, raw, and unexplored global sales numbers ever could. And then there's social media. Are y'all on TikTok? Have you seen these vegan influencers running up numbers? This past year, vegan-related hashtags on TikTok have amassed over 54 billion views, up from 44 billion in 2020. Vegan influencers are popping up every day on YouTube and other platforms. I recently spoke with Danny O'Shea, the popular vegan influencer once known as Lifting Vegan Logic. I asked Danny if he felt his pro-vegan argument debunking content was effective. He looked at me and said, "Yes, you should see my DMs." Reddit/r/vegan has swelled to over 1.9 million subscribers, up from just 150K in 2015, with active daily engagement. And much more of what they read debunks myth, celebrates wins, and introduces and informs people through their first weeks of going vegan. Veganism is being defended, factually, fiercely, and globally. Every time someone sees a cute animal online, stumbles upon activist content, watches slaughterhouse footage on a public screen, views one of the many ever more powerful documentaries showing versus telling viewers about the righteousness of our cause, or anytime someone open to change simply meets a happy, healthy vegan, something shifts. These moments, big or small, create new neural pathways, prompting people to rethink their relationship with animals and reconsider what's possible. They are evolving from cognitive dissonance. They are touched by reevaluations that unleash the compassionate inner vegan that's already there. And let's give weight to the anecdotes for a second. You all have, in combination, had thousands of conversations with people about animals. Is that defensive friend who once made fun of you for going vegan listening a little bit more? Mine are. Street outreachers. How many times have you comforted someone shedding tears when exposed to slaughterhouse footage? And how many of you have experienced the look in someone's eyes when they make the connection? One of the most telling recent encounters I've had is a subtle one. While doing street outreach underground in Union Square with We the Free, a group of teenage boys gathered around one of our activists holding a TV and started mocking and provoking him, as people sometimes do, before scampering away. But one of them, who was lingering in the back, turned around and came up to me. "I get it," he said. "Thank you for doing this." He shook my hand and walked away. This might not seem like a big deal, but it's a sign of the times. The wind is at our back because we have a winning argument and a just cause. And with these conversations, we're not just challenging beliefs that are deeply woven into people's identities, but we're planting seeds in the mind of the next generation. The future leaders, filmmakers, lawyers, doctors, and policymakers we meet today may one day be those who help scale this movement in ways we can't imagine. Consider this. The director of Dominion, a documentary that has inspired so many people to go vegan, was influenced by a personal turning point during a chance street outreach encounter. Please remember this. You never know who you're talking to. Your conversation could be the spark that changes everything. And how about the fact that veganism and animal rights are now being welcomed into public schools, not as a fringe idea, but as something children should learn about? The subject is presented as a conversation about life and a way to understand and embrace justice, compassion, and a better future. And we're being invited into these spaces. We're being invited into these discussions as thoughtful guides. So yes, I push back on the negative rhetoric and unsupportable reporting of negative trends. We have not hit a wall. We are building a platform upon which our movement will springboard in the future. And we're doing it without wealth, without power, and without violence. Of course, liberation can't come fast enough. We can always do better, and we will. But we can't believe for 1 second that what we're doing is not working. It is. So I say this with my whole being, and I say this from my heart. I'm proud to be allied with each and every one of you. Vegans, the disruptors challenging capitalist forces, the people who hold signs, the people who stay up late editing videos, those who craft comments online, those who show up even when it's hard, those willing to have tough conversations with friends and family. I love you and I admire you. Let us not stray from the reality animals face, from the victims, or from the work ahead. Let's lift each other up. Let us celebrate the victories, no matter how small. Thank you, and thank you again for coming here today.